Hey, family, I did leave off one thing. I do want to talk about recent from 2020 to 2025, recent years, and what we've seen as far as white male hate towards black men. So let's just jump into it really quick, okay? First, let's talk about polarization and resistance. Um, Backlash to black empowerment. We've seen backlash. The white nationalist extremism has surged from 2020 up until now. Events like the 2021 Capitol riot reflected white fears about losing dominance. Black men were scapegoated in political rhetoric, facing increased violence from white nationalist militias and hate groups. I don't know. And see, the sad thing is the media does not always cover what is happening on the local level, but in cities across the United States, especially in the South, black men, not at large numbers, but have been coming up missing. And again, media has not really shined that type of spotlight on it. Or remember, there were a few cases where black men had off themselves, but did they? You know? And again, the whole Capitol riot reflected white fear. When white folk get afraid, you see how violent they got? Can you imagine if that was the Black Lives Matter movement running into the Capitol? They would have, it would have been martial law, and it would have been a bunch of black men laying across the ground dead, shot, straight up. And we know that to be true. We don't have the complexion for the protection, especially our black men don't. Another polarization and resistance scenario is economic and digital disparities. Systemic racism perpetuated severe economic inequality. Black men still face obstacles in healthcare, education, employment, housing, and technology access. White men disproportionately hold power in tech, finance, and politics, widening racial gaps. Let's talk about resistance and movements for change. Black men, alongside allies now, continued fighting systemic racism through activism, protests, legal challenges, and political action. Increasingly diverse coalitions began pushing against white dominance, igniting a fierce backlash, but also signs of hope. So, again, in this fight, like any battle, you got to have allies, right? So, again, when I speak on black men or white men, not all white folk are bad, not all black people are good. So we had allies. We still do. Let's talk about the psychological legacy of racial violence. The relationship between white and black men has left deep psychological scars. It's created white fear, but has also created black trauma. Just has. Many white men consciously or subconsciously fear black men due to centuries old stereotypes perpetuated by media and culture. Black men suffer collective trauma from generational violence and oppression impacting mental health, trust, and well being. Also, intergenerational impact. Continuous violence affects black men's self image, family structure, economic mobility, and community stability, creating a cycle of hardships. So, how are we going to heal this, y'all? How are we going to heal towards justice, right? We got to understand this brutal history is critical to addressing today's racial tensions. The strained relationship between white and black men was built on systemic violence, fear, and domination. So moving forward, we got to acknowledge, white folk got to acknowledge the sin. And I'm going to use the R word, reparations, openly confronting history, systemic racism, and providing restitution to repair the harm. You just got to. Put your money where your mouth is. 2, policy and justice reform, ending police brutality, reforming criminal justice system, getting these men out of prison who were placed in there for petty weed possession crimes. And now you can get weed anywhere, legally. Dismantling systemic racism in education, housing, employment, and healthcare. And building genuine relationships, fostering understanding, empathy, and unity through dialogue, education, and solidarity among all races. James Baldwin, the great James Baldwin, famously said, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." By confronting the brutal legacy, we may finally build a society founded not on violence and fear, but on justice, equality, and human dignity for all. But I guarantee you, white folk, you don't want to keep passing on the fear, white fear, to your next generations. It's not fair to our black men that they have to keep passing on that trauma, black trauma, from what you all have inflicted on them. White men, I know pride and ego is a mother smucker, but you gotta face it. You gotta do some restitution. What if the tables were turned? Let's do a scene from To Kill a Mockingbird, right? Let's paint the worst scenario of slavery. But this time, let the slaves have been white and the oppressors been black. How would you feel?